Hey, it's time for Right Time Radio. This is Lynn Donovan, and Sue Haas is still out of town taking care of family matters. Tay, how you doing today?
I'm busy. Been a busy morning this morning.
Yeah, your arms are moving 99 miles an hour.
Yeah, I got stuff to do after work.
If only you were an octopus.
No, because they'd find more stuff for me to do.
You're absolutely right. All right, well, back in our studio again, we have Tracy Beach. I'm so excited to have you here. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning.
Tracy is going to not be reading from a book that she has written, because this is a book she is going to write. I'm so excited. I can't wait to read this one.
What language is that in? I was reading her notes.
Yeah, that's Tracy E's. And
she knows.
It's about the Stanley Hotel.
Ooh,
now, who hasn't heard about the Stanley Hotel? Anybody? Well, there may be somebody. Just in case.
I mean, if they hadn't, what was the movie?
The Shining.
Yeah, if you haven't, if you don't know what the Stanley Hotel
Johnny's
is, watch.
Back.
Yeah, here's Johnny.
Yeah.
Go watch The Shining. That was a movie filmed at the Stanley Hotel.
Well,
it wasn't.
It's about the Stanley Hotel,
but it wasn't actually filmed there.
Yeah, Tracy was telling me earlier. Well, we'll get into all that.
Yeah.
How about if we get into that? First of all, let's tell everybody where the Stanley is. So there are those who have lived in a rock and don't know where that is. So
In
give
it
us
or
that. Under it,
Okay.
in it. Either way.
One of those.
Well, the Stanley Hotel is located in Estes Park in Colorado, and it was supposed to be filmed at the Stanley, but when they filmed the movie, there had a really, really warm winter, and there wasn't enough snow. So they ended up moving it to, I believe, Vermont, to a hotel that was closed for the winter, and they had plenty of snow up there. Stephen King hated that idea, and so years later, he had a mini-series of The Shining redone at the Stanley, and he had it done the way he wanted it.
Because when you are Stephen King, you can do things like that.
Well, true. But, somebody made a comment a long time ago about Stephen King. Says, what were his bedtime stories to his kids?
Yeah.
I had to think about this. Like, yeah, I wonder.
Like Tommy Knockers or something like that.
Yeah.
He has a very vivid imagination.
Well, both of his children do write, so probably so.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
All right, so what is the Stanley Hotel, Miss Tracy?
Well, the Stanley Hotel was a resort that was built by Mr. Stanley, of course, back in 1908. And it's gone through many, many owners, and it's just extremely haunted. But the thing that's neat is it's not only one of the most haunted hotels in the entire United States, it's happy haunted. It's not mean haunted. You don't get scratched. You don't get pinched. The people that haunt the hotel are there because of the happy memories they had from the dances and the fun and the balls, the casino, playing the pools, at the pool room and everything. And Mr. Stanley still haunts the building and everybody, but they're happy
He's still
hauntings.
there, yeah.
Yes. I mean, you see a lot of stuff when you go there, but it's not, mean stuff.
Yeah. You mentioned one time to me that you'll see women in ballroom dresses.
Yes. You'll see the women in ball gowns, and you can see his wife playing the piano in the other room. You can see Mr. Stanley walking right down the hallway. You can see ghost orbs everywhere. You can hear music playing and you go into a room and it stops. So it's extremely, extremely haunted. One of the hauntedest hotels in the whole United States, but it's not. There's no evil things. You don't get pinched or scratched. So it's like a family-friendly haunted hotel.
Look, Casper's there.
Exactly.
All right.
Now, and one of these days you're going to publish this book, and what is that going to be called?
It's going to be called The Fourth Floor, The Ghost of the Stanley Hotel.
Right.
Because the fourth floor is the most haunted floor in the entire hotel.
So when you get that published, we'll let everybody know about it. But in the meantime, she has got some of the most amazing stories that she's going to share with us. Of course, all of these things are going to go into the book eventually. But the one that I asked her to talk about is the dead body. So tell us about that.
You just gave me a funny look.
Cool.
I know. It really is a funny story, believe it or not.
Okay, so I've been going through all the old newspapers in order to be able to tell the true story of the Stanley, which also helps to understand why it is haunted to the way it is, because I've been able to locate families who've experienced things like maybe a death or an injury or something that happened that causes them to want to stay there in spirit. And so in 1921, I discovered a story which I thought was kind of funny, and it kind of reminded me of the movie, what was that movie that Stephen King did? Stand By Me, the Stand By Me movie, where the boys go and look for the dead body on the side of the railroad tracks. So this kind of reminded me of that. So what it is in June 29th, 1921, a newspaper story came out, and what they were talking about was the park rangers had located a dead body. And the man appeared to have been there for about a year. He was kind of mummified. And they went down, and there's a thing called the Tyndall Glacier, and it's over in Estes Park near Grand Lake, which is about maybe like 12 to 15 miles away from Estes Park.
Right.
And a lot of the tourists would go and they would hike this Grand Lake, and they would go see this glacier. Well, some tourists had gone the July before, and they had discovered up on the top of this cliff a whole bunch of supplies. There was a jacket, there was saddlebags, there was provisions, a gun, things like that, but there was no guy. Then they looked down off the cliff where the glacier was, and they saw a body. So they went down to the glacier, and they found a fossilized, petrified man. He was all shriveled up, dark-skinned, because he just shriveled up like a mummy. So they left him there, and they went back to their hotel in Estes Park, but still didn't tell anybody. So they waited until they got home from Denver, and they wrote a letter to the forest rangers, and they said, hey, we're going to sign this a tourist so we don't get in trouble or anything.
Yeah.
There's a dead body. Here's its location. So the forest rangers at Rocky Mountain National Park followed the guy's directions, couldn't find anything. They thought it was a hoax. So they stopped thinking about it. Well, that was in July. And so, I'm sorry, it was in July. So then they go, and a couple months later, the forest rangers on the other side of the park near Grand Lake were out there fixing the phone lines, and they stumbled across all the provisions sitting there, and they found the body.
So let's stop there and let's go to commercial, and we're going to talk about some more. You're not going to believe what happened after they actually found the body.
I'm just sitting here waiting.
We got to go to commercial, Tay. I'm sorry. Talking to Tracy Beach about the Stanley Hotel, and she's sharing with us some stories that she will be writing into the book, but it's kind of raw. It's all raw material right now.
Yes.
Yeah, if you can look at it, it's really raw.
It's really raw.
My husband makes fun of my handwriting too.
That's okay. Yeah, it's in Tracy E's.
Yes.
But
Well, as long as she can read it, that's all that matters.
that's absolutely correct.
Maybe
So the
that's-
thing is she's telling about a dead body that was found in the Estes Park, and now she's
That
going to
was
tell
found
us.
and lost and found
And
again.
found
right?
and
It
lost
was,
and-
yes.
Well, since it was over the side of a cliff, I can see why. And you said the men were up on a pole working on the phone lines?
Yes, the forest rangers, they had not even heard about this missing body, and then they were going and working on the phone lines, and then they stumbled across this pile of provisions, jacket, saddlebags, gun, things like that on the top of a cliff. But then they looked down over the cliff where there was a glacier, which was a very popular destination for tourists to go see the glacier, and there was a petrified man down there. So he had been there for quite a while.
Yeah.
He was all shriveled up and everything. So the forest rangers, they found the man. They said he appeared to be about 50 years old. He was about 5'6", and he was mummified, and his skin had shriveled up and blackened. He had a full beard, grayish brown hair, and appeared to have fallen off the cliff. And he had hit his head on a rock, and that must have been what killed him, because his head was still laying against the rock, and there was kind of a dent,
Wow.
So they were like, okay. And then they got thinking, they go, last October, when we were up here checking the trails, we found a dog. And the dog was trying to lead us to something, and we followed the dog, and we could not figure out where the dog was going. So we finally just gave up, went back to the forest station. Dog followed us. And when they got back to the forest station, some people recognized the dog, and they said, oh, well, that's one of the poll workers' dogs. He was working on the phone lines. Still couldn't find the guy, and the dog just made his home at the forest station, became a forest station dog. And they were like, hey, wow, I bet that was that guy's dog. Okay. So then they went, and they called the coroner in Fort Collins. Coroner comes out. Now, this was 8 miles from the forest ranger station. So they took horses the first 7 miles, then they hiked the last mile, and they got to the body. They, of course, the coroner, surprisingly, has to confirm the guy's dead, and...
as dumb as that sounds, that actually has to happen.
It has to happen, yeah. There's this mummified guy laying in a glacier, and they're like, hey, someone else has to say he's dead,
Exactly. The officials have to do it.
Yeah.
I know that's nuts, but,
Yeah.
So then they figured, well, we're not going to go and, put this guy on a cot and drag him 8 miles back. So instead, they dug a hole where they had found him, and they buried him. And they put some rocks and dirt over him and stuff, and made a little grave, gathered up his belongings, and took them back, tried to find family. Only problem is back then, the newspapers used to give way too much information about things, which is great when you're writing a book, but it kind of backfired. The newspaper not only told the entire story of the guy, but gave the exact location of where they had buried him. That summer was the most popular year for people to climb that glacier, and the forest rangers didn't find out until months later that the tourists had dug up the body, propped it up, and were pretty much poking at it with a stick all summer. And it became the biggest tourist attraction was to go to the glacier and look at the dead body. Well, no one found out until the end of season, which is about September, October.
Right.
The forest rangers caught wind of what was going on, had to hike all the way back up there, found the guy propped up against the glacier, and so they dug a deeper hole this time, buried him, and this time they put large rocks on top. And because they realized they had accidentally caused a very popular tourist attraction.
Well, you know what? If they had him propped up, they should have given him a cold beer and a cigarette. That would have added to it. I'm kidding.
By the jukebox when I die.
Man, he was a lineman for the phone company?
Yeah.
And they had to hike it. Where did this guy come from? Does anybody know?
No, actually, I looked up on Ancestry, and they just had his last name listed because he had a pay stub in his jacket pocket with his last name mentioned.
Wow.
And then when I went on what's called Find a Grave on Ancestry.com, it told the whole story of them finding him and everything, but they didn't even have the guy's first name.
So no, they never found family or anything then, I guess.
No.
That's crazy.
I'd like to know where those phone lines are running. Oh, man.
know,
I've been in some pretty bizarre spots with phone lines, but that's just, wow.
Well, it was a phone line that was supposed to connect the Rocky Mountain National Parks Forest Station to the forest station at Grand Lake.
Oh, okay.
And that's how come one station didn't tell the other station, hey, we just heard a thing about a body.
We just had
We
somebody
have
into the studio.
visitors that have been coming in here. It's been
Say
a busy
hello.
day.
Hello.
This is Pam from Kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
And guess what?
What?
You can find Tracy Beach's book at Kaleidoscope Inspiration.
Isn't
That's
that
amazing.
I'm going to head out. I just wanted to say hi.
Yeah, I saw her.
Hi.
I waved her in. So you never know what'll happen on Right Time Radio.
Oh, it's been one of those days today, but that's all right. Makes it fun.
It is, yeah. So the poor guy, he got buried and stayed buried, though,
Yes,
right?
he got buried and he stayed buried, and that just teaches you don't sit there and give the exact location of a body to the minute
Yes.
detail because they went
They
to go
won't, yeah.
find him. Yeah.
And the other thing you said about that earlier, which I think is really cute, is that people just never change.
Nope.
They have that morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like driving by an accident.
Yeah, you
can't
gotta look.
not look.
Yeah.
I've been by a lot of them. You're like, really? Wow.
Yeah.
How'd they do that?
And they walked away from that.
There's some that there were some that I've been to that they look like a minor accident, but people have passed.
Yeah.
And you
yeah.
look like some like the car is the size of a cracker box, and they're fine. They got a little scratch. Like,
Right.
how the heck did that happen? It's weird.
I agree with you.
Are you done messing with that?
I'm sorry. I was trying to put it back where it was. I was
Okay.
in an accident one time, and I literally rolled end over end over end over end. Then I slid, and it stopped just feet from a cliff that would have gone into a river. So thank you, Jesus. And I was fine. I literally walked away. I had a bruise on my shoulder. a little bit of a cut on my top of my foot where I'd come out from the pedals and all that stuff. And then real recent to that, which is awful, a friend of ours did one little rollover in a pickup truck and it actually killed him. So
Well, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, which made me then go, wow, I am so happy that I survived that.
I actually, I went to an accident scene one time. I was covering State Patrol, and they said, "Can you go over and just watch it till State Patrol comes up?" I
Yeah.
said, "Okay." So there's a car laying on its roof, and I see a pair of legs on one side of it. I'm like, "Oh no!" This rolled over and
Yeah.
ejected him, partially ejected, and then I see stuff start moving. I'm like, "Okay, are you all right?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm fine." He had a little scratch. So what I did was I took that picture.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I had him go on the other side of the car, and I took the other half. Mm-hmm. So when people see it, it's like, yeah, that got to the car, and this guy's half was on this side, the other half was on. The guy was fine. People are like, really? No.
No,
he was fine.
but wasn't it a great story?
It was a great story, yeah.
Anyway, and your story was awesome, Tracy. That's amazing.
Well, the other
So
thing.
where's this body at?
Estes Park, that's all we'll
I want to
tell
give him a beer.
the,
National Beer Day.
the other thing I found that was like really weird was that people kept getting hit by lightning in Estes Park. I have found a story of, let's see, a cow in a field hit by lightning, died instantly. A guy went camping up on top of Long's Peak. There was an electrical storm. He stood outside of his tent to watch. He got struck by lightning.
Wow.
He got knocked unconscious but did survive. They had to carry him down the hill. Then there was another instance where a man was on, they would get their horses and they would go with the pack animals and they would go up to the mountain. And it was him riding on the horse with his 6-year-old son sitting in front of him on the horse, and they were riding the horse down. Horse gets hit by lightning.
Oh.
The guy gets hit by lightning. The son gets thrown off. The son's injured but survives, but his dad and the horse died instantly.
Wow.
The Stanley Hotel's
Wow.
been hit numerous times by lightning. The power company's been hit by lightning. There's like all these cases of just,
Lightning.
but could you imagine just, you're looking outside and your cow just gets hit by lightning and just
Yeah.
explodes,
Poof.
Could that have happened to the guy on the cliff? Because he got hit by lightning and fell off? I'm just asking.
Maybe.
Why not?
He might
That's why
have.
he was petrified.
There you
Could be.
go. Yeah, maybe.
Let's take
Hey, we're
another
just
commercial
trying to
break, guys. And we will be back with more of this extremely fun conversation about the Stanley Hotel. Hey, we're back with Right Time Radio, and we're going to talk about a really interesting thing that the Stanley Hotel did, a very progressive type thing.
Yeah.
But with the disclaimer is you have to understand that in those days, African Americans were referred to as colored. So let's preface with that, and you tell our story, Tracy.
Well, that's the thing is when I write a history book, I use the terminology that's used during that time
Exactly.
period.
Yeah, so it's nothing racist.
It's nothing racist.
we're
It's
just-
yeah.
No.
The way it was.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
go
the
ahead.
thing that I discovered with the Stanley Hotel was that there was numerous resorts at Estes Park, but the Stanley Hotel insisted from its grand opening that it would only hire colored help. And now the women who made the beds and the maids and stuff, they were white, but everybody else there was colored. The cooks, the waiters, the bellmen, the everybody, they were all colored. And so they also would hire people who had a talent. They could sing, they could dance, they could play baseball. They also had the colored Estes Park baseball team that would go against the other hotel's staff. So they pretty much, you had to be able to be really good at baseball, sing, dance, and have a talent. And then each of the hotels would hire these people so that their baseball teams could win every year. And
Okay.
now the other hotels would go and hire minstrel shows to come in blackface to entertain their hotel guests. Well, the Stanley, of course, was against that. So what they did was they would have their colored help go and put on their own minstrel shows themselves. And so they were the only ones that did that in the entire park, and the only ones it was referred to as the colored Stanley baseball team. And they kicked butt too. I mean, I've seen the results, and they were good. But
Yeah.
it's just funny to have that on your resume. It's like, well, I'm a really good cook. Yes, but can you play baseball
Yeah, and sing and dance.
and sing and
can you
dance?
sing and
Yeah.
dance?
Yes.
But how progressive of them. That's amazing.
That's pretty forward thinking,
Interesting.
actually, considering the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it really impressed me because they opened in 1908.
Well, listen, we got about 4 minutes, so give us another story.
Well, the thing that I've discovered, of course, there's a lot of ghost stories about the Stanley Hotel. And one of the ghost stories that I really think is neat was that according to the hotel staff that work at the front desk, that Mr. Stanley, he still visits and checks on his hotel constantly. And they explained that in order to see Mr. Stanley, if your head is down and you're using the computer, you can see Mr. Stanley approach the desk numerous times a day. But if you raise your head, he disappears. So the staff has learned to keep their head lowered and simply raise their eyes.
Nice.
If they raise their eyes, they can see Mr. Stanley in full form like he's an
Wow.
actual living person, and then they can speak to him. He'll nod his head, and he'll check out his hotel, and they'll watch him walk off. But you can't raise your head. You can only raise your eyes, and you can see Mr. Stanley.
What the way that is.
It's just the way, it's like a lot of people, they see ghosts from the peripheral vision.
Right.
And so by raising your head, I guess it changes your vision.
Huh.
And then also at night, Mr. Stanley plays pool in the pool hall until you'll hear the pool balls being hit. And if you go in there, you can see Mr. Stanley and his friends playing pool. You can see his wife playing the piano. You can see, if you go in there, you can hear music that's coming out of the ballroom. And if you peek through the door, but don't open the door, you can see people in Victorian dress and they're dancing, and you can see the band and everything. But if you open the door, they disappear.
Just makes you want to go up there just to see.
I know.
Well, that's what's so fascinating.
This is a tourist spot,
Yes,
right?
it's one of the most haunted
is, yeah.
hotels in the United States, but it's family-friendly haunting.
Yeah.
Which is what I think, and then they give ghost tours there. They have what's called the Stanley Hotel Paranormal Experience, where you can stay in one of the haunted rooms. You can you go on a ghost hunt at night, and they take you into all the different spots. They even have you hold a ghost detector for each person as you're going around, and it's really cool. Yeah.
We need to make a field trip, don't we, Tay?
We'll do a live from Stanley
We
Hotel.
should.
There you
Right
go.
time
That'd be kinda
radio
cool.
at the Stanley Hotel.
Yeah, and then
That'd be kinda cool.
now the first manager, his name was Mr. Lamborn. He had a Cocker Spaniel named Beavis, and Beavis was a very, very well trained dog. And Beavis would greet all the different people that came into the hotel. He could even take papers and mail to a room.
Oh, wow.
Right, he would ride the elevator, go up to a certain room, and he never missed a room. He just to take it. He
Wow.
would paw at the door, and then somebody would open it, and he'd give them their mail, and he always got the room correct.
Wow.
Because they
That's
could,
int-
yeah, they
that's
could just
intense.
say, hey, go to room 217 upstairs, second floor. Dog would get in the elevator, and he'd ride to the second floor, and he'd go right to 217, paw at the door, and give them their mail.
So I got a question.
Yes.
How does he push the buttons in the elevator?
Oh, they had an
I'm just
elevator,
joking.
man.
I mean, like, wait a minute.
Yeah, but that dog
barks
haunts
to the
the
second
hotel now.
Really?
Because when you're walking around and you're standing there, you can actually feel an animal lean up against your leg or jump up onto your leg, and you can feel the presence of a small animal next to you because he's still greeting the guests at the Stanley Hotel.
Still doing
Man.
his job.
He's still doing his job, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when the waiters and stuff would do their minstrel shows, Beavis would even go and do his tricks.
Cool.
Yeah,
He
he
should
was
have had another dog named Butthead.
And that would have been really
He was-
progressive also.
Way progressive. Way before their time. Wow. That's crazy.
That is crazy. We don't have time for any more, do we, Tay?
No.
No. But
No.
Tracy, I love that you love to do this research. It is just so
I just
fun.
like different strange research.
Yes,
I just
you
like
do.
the unusual.
There's always one in the crowd.
There is.
Well, there
Yeah,
is,
there
but
is.
she's so fascinating, So like I said,
Well-
I told her before, I bet she's great at a party because she can talk about
I'm going to tell you
all
about this. No.
You want to hear about a dead body? No. No.
that was petrified and
Yeah.
poked
Fell
at.
off a cliff, probably from being hit by lightning.
He probably was
Yeah.
hit by lightning.
Yeah.
Everybody else was.
Everybody else was.
There's
up
a really high mountain there at Estes Park that you climb it, and when you come back down, you can buy T-shirts that said "I made it to the top." I have one of those T-shirts.
Was it Long's Peak?
I think so.
Yeah.
And when we got there, we went up and came down, and we luckily had gotten there early enough because they were stopping everybody from going up because the clouds were starting to gather.
Uh-huh.
So
And the
that's,
light-
Could have got hit by lightning.
yeah, yeah. So if you went up at your own risk. So
Yeah, that's it.
been a great day on Right Time Radio. See you all next week.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bye.
Coast to Coast fills the overnight Saturday and Sunday, 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. AM 1400 KRLN, Canyon City.